Hello and welcome. Good afternoon. I'm Andrea Gonzalez with Trellis Strategies, and I'm so excited that you've joined us today for a little midday professional development. We're going to be talking today about the Some College No Credential Learner and the research we've done to better understand that population. Um, Today, our presenter is going to be Allyson Cornett, the Director of Research at Trellis Strategies. And we're going to wait another maybe 30 seconds here while more people trickle in. Um, you are welcome to put questions in the chat or send them through Q&A throughout the presentation. Allyson is excellent at getting to every question before time is up, but we'll likely get to the questions once her presentation is done. And after the recording is edited, we will post this to our past events website, but I will email out the recording to all of the people who registered, even if they couldn't attend. So if you have a colleague who registered and couldn't attend, they will be getting this. Or if you get this, then you can send it to other folks you think could benefit from hearing. All right, Allyson, I will hand it over to you and let you get started.
Thanks, Andrea. Welcome again, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Like Andrea said, my name is Allyson Cornett, and I serve as the Director of Research here at Trellis Strategies. Our focus today is on a critical group in higher education, students who have some college experience but no credential. These learners represent millions of Americans, and understanding their challenges is essential for improving completion rates and workforce readiness across the country. Over the next 57 minutes or so, we'll explore who these students are, why they leave their institutions, and what strategies can help to bring them back. This conversation is really timely because institutions across the country are grappling with enrollment declines and workforce shortages. And SCNC students represent a critical opportunity, not just for higher education, but for economic mobility and community well-being. Since joining Trellis in 2017, I've led the development and administration of our Some College No Credential survey, which has become a cornerstone of our work to understand and support the modern learner. This topic is also personal for me. Actually, when I first met my husband, he was part of the SCNC population, and I actually stopped out of graduate school during the pandemic before ultimately returning to finish. These experiences have given me a deeper appreciation for the challenges SCNC students face and the importance of creating pathways that lead back to completion. So let's get started by talking a bit about Trellis Strategies and the work that we do in this space. If you don't know us, Trellis Strategies is a trusted research and technical assistance firm with nearly 40 years of experience in higher education. Our mission is to advance post-secondary education and workforce development through data-driven insights. We specialize in both qualitative and quantitative research to help organizations and institutions make informed decisions that improve student success for the modern learner. And our work spans topic areas like adult learners, student finances, basic needs, and institutional effectiveness. Simply put, we help your organization turn data into action. Now that you know a little bit about who we are, let's take a look at the scope of the SCNC challenge. And I wanted to start here with the big picture. According to NCES, 36% of our undergraduates are not finishing their degrees. And we know that more than 43 million Americans have some college credit, but no credential based on data from the National Student Clearinghouse Research Center. And really think about that. That's 43 million people. If even a fraction of these learners return and complete their degree, think about the ripple effect on workforce readiness and family income right off the bat. That could be really enormous for these students. There is some good news here. Re-enrollment among SCNC students is trending upwards, while new stopouts are declining. But here's the challenge. Only 2.7% of these students are re-enrolling each year, and that's a huge opportunity for institutions to make a difference. So to better understand these numbers and how to close this gap, we conducted a comprehensive survey, and we have been for several years. So a little bit about our Some College No Credential survey. This is a self-reported online survey that was designed to identify why students leave their institutions and what strategies can help them return. It provides actionable insights for institutions, informing re-enrollment strategies, targeting programs, and initiatives that can help support a culture of care for these students. So let's take a look at the scope of our latest administration, which was a nationwide administration. We fielded the survey to a population of over 454,000 students and gained nearly 3,181 responses, giving us a response rate of about 1%. Of those who responded, 88% completed the survey, spending an average of 6 minutes. And we partnered with 58 institutions across several states to gather this data, giving us a broad view of some college no credential learners across different contexts. And as a director of research, as a data nerd, I would love to see a higher response rate here. Our average response rate for this survey is typically around 7 to 8%, but we all know it can be really difficult to engage these learners. They can be a challenge because they're disconnected from campus systems and we're relying on personal emails and outreach methods that might be outdated. And even a 1% response rate will provide some valuable insights into their barriers and motivations. So let's take a look at who these students are. And through our surveys, we have found that SCNC students are incredibly diverse. 36% were first generation college students, 12% identify as LGBTQIA+, 1 in 4, just a quarter, are parenting students, so they're providing care to dependents or children. And then we can see here when it comes to work, nearly half are employed full-time at 48%, while 24% are working part-time for pay. And these characteristics really highlight the complexity of their lives and the competing priorities that they might face. So next, we're going to explore some of the reasons that students leave college before earning a credential. And I do want to mention, if you have any questions for me, feel free to put those in the chat. We can get to those at the end. And also, we will be sharing this recording and slide deck for anyone who has joined us after the introduction, just to make sure that y'all are getting a copy of this. So we know that the reasons students are leaving college are multifaceted, but we see 5 dominant themes stand out in our research. Let's take a closer look at those. Top reason is related to personal financial issues, and that can include a lack of funds, bills, and debt. This was reported by 35% of our respondents. And across all the surveys that we have conducted with this population, finances remains in the top 3 reasons year over year. Many stopped out students who selected personal financial reasons as a reason for leaving the college also reported significant financial problems. Among these issues were topics like financial hardship and personal discomfort with taking out additional loans to cover costs. Next, we saw 32% of respondents indicate that family or personal reasons contributed to their decision to stop out. Although these reasons can be personal and subjective, we did see responses noted 24/7 caretaking, maybe they had some deaths in the family, but also everyday stressors can be common reasons for not contributing their education. We also saw employment play a factor among 27% of respondents. For students who want or need to work while in school, balancing work and academic obligations can be a really difficult task. Working full-time hours in addition to attending college can have negative consequences on academic performance. And what's more, we saw some respondents indicate that working full-time negated the purpose of a college degree and helping them attain a job post-graduation. Affordability concerns were another commonality here among 25% of former students. The cost of attending college has risen steadily, often leaving students with financial aid packages that cannot fully meet the cost of their attendance. Furthermore, getting students to understand the process of filling out the FAFSA is an issue for countless institutions across the nation, and we see that here as well. And lastly here, health-related challenges were cited by 24% of respondents as a reason for stopping out. Many of these students reported struggles with their mental health, including conditions such as generalized anxiety disorder, depression, and stress, all of which can significantly impact academic performance and persistence. Physical health concerns also emerged, including chronic illness and recovery from medical procedures. These issues often compounded with other barriers, such as financial strain or family responsibilities, making it difficult for these students to maintain their enrollment. Next, we're going to take a look at how these reasons vary by institution type. On this slide, we have our top 5 reasons for leaving, kind of disaggregated by sector. And we can see that at four-year institutions, personal financial issues and family responsibilities were slightly more pronounced, while two-year students report similar challenges, but at slightly lower rates, by 3 to 5 percentage points. Employment conflicts and health concerns were common across both the 2 and 4-year schools. And this all just really reinforces the need for tailored strategies by institution type instead of a blanket one-size-fits-all solution. Over the next few slides, I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into each kind of main area
At the front door.
with starting with financial barriers. So of the 41% who reported personal financial issues that impacted their ability to stay enrolled in college, nearly 3/4 said that a lack of funds had affected their decision not to return to the institution. 39% could not afford their monthly bills, whether that was rent, their mortgage, car payments, utilities. We saw that very common in the survey. And then we also saw 39% had difficulties with their debt. And so these are not, this is important for us to remember, these are not abstract numbers. They represent real struggles and real students having to make tough choices between education and basic living expenses. Tuition and financial aid are also playing a big role here. In fact, 61% of students who indicated cost of attendance issues at the top of the survey said that tuition was more than they could afford, and 30% indicated that their aid package was insufficient. And I really like to highlight these two findings because they underscore the importance of financial support and re-enrollment strategies. I always also want to highlight what students are telling us in their own words, really marrying that quant and qual. This next slide features a quote from a student attending a 4-year institution in Texas. And I'm just going to read this off for those who are listening. One student shared, in spring 2021, after COVID, I was having difficulties finishing and passing my courses and was falling behind financially and paying off my tuition for that semester. I had lost my job and my grades dropped to where I lost any financial aid and scholarships, and I had to pay the debt with the school. I only have one semester remaining, but owe $3,200 to pay for that semester, so I was dropped. And obviously, this is a hyper-specific scenario, but unfortunately, this type of story is the reality for many of the 43 million SCNC students that I discussed at the beginning. Now I'm going to move into some family and personal challenges. Family responsibilities were a challenge for 49% of respondents who said that they were a challenge or impacted their enrollment. Mental health issues affected 58% of students, and 30% of students felt alone or isolated. And these are really important personal factors that are just as significant as the financial ones we just discussed in shaping their persistence and long-term retention. And I just want to kind of quickly circle back to the 58% who reported mental health struggles. This aligns with data that we've collected and others across the nation have collected, showing rising anxiety and depression among college students post-pandemic, where we see in our research up to nearly half of currently enrolled students facing one or more mental health concerns while in college, whether that's generalized anxiety disorder major depressive disorder, or other conditions. So now we're going to get into a few more student quotes. Again, really love to highlight student voices. And as an anthropologist, I really like to marry this with the survey data. This first student wrote that they are balancing working full time, going to school, and raising a child, and that all became overwhelming. And trying to find classes that worked around my work schedule and child's school. Another student wrote, I didn't fit in. I felt alone and isolated. I didn't feel like I belonged. The tuition was higher than what I could afford. I worked 2 jobs and felt like it wasn't worth it anymore. I didn't have any help available. And what I really like about these two quotes is that it really highlights the interplay of these different buckets that students are trying to prioritize. This first student, for instance, they're a parent, they're working full time and going to school. And when those hard decisions have to be made between working, putting meals on the table, paying your rent or mortgage, supporting your child in their primary education, or continuing post-secondary education, unfortunately, that choice becomes clear for a lot of students, like this person that wrote into our survey. Switching gears here back to academic challenges, we also see academic barriers play a role. 30% of respondents were placed on academic probation or suspended, and 29% indicated their desired courses were not offered. And these challenges can really compound financial and personal struggles. And we do see a lot of students, and our research and that of others indicate that the courses that are scheduled as they are might not be the best fit for the student. And that can really impact their ability to stay enrolled and to make their courses and their course schedule work with their work schedules or their child's schedules. Here's an example of how these challenges can compound financial and personal struggles. I started with a 5 credit Japanese course and was overwhelmed by the speed of learning the materials. Due to my work schedule, there wasn't an opportunity for me to take advantage of the Japanese tutors. And this is common where we see students reporting that the hours or offerings of their institution don't necessarily always align with their schedules. And that could be something that institutions can kind of take a look at and make sure that their schedules are working for the majority of their student body. So next, we're going to take a look at how students perceive their institutions, departments and areas at their schools, and the value of education. So in our survey, we do gauge satisfaction with various areas of the school, including registration, academic quality, different departments and areas like financial aid, career services, registrar, and business services. The three kind of aspects listed on the slide here are where students reported the highest satisfaction, and that included the administration process, registration process, and academic quality. And these are all kind of strengths institutions can build on. On the other hand, we saw the lowest satisfaction in our survey with financial aid offices, career services, and business services. And these are all areas that represent opportunities for improvement. Despite all these barriers and challenges, we do see most students, even former students, agree that a college degree improves their quality of life and career potential. We did ask students specifically if a college degree would provide them with a higher quality of life and if completing their degree would improve that career and earnings potential. And we see that that belief is really strong among both our 2 and 4 year respondents, with just over 1 in 10 disagreeing and respectively across the two sectors. And this optimism is something that institutions can really build on and take advantage of. So now we're going to explore students' future plans, but also what influences their decision to return. We do ask in the survey if students talked to an employee before they left the institution and if they also plan to re-enroll at the same institution for those who indicated that they haven't already transferred, matriculated, or graduated from somewhere else. And we saw that 24% of our students talked to an employee before departing, and 28% plan to re-enroll at the institution. And this just really suggests that proactive communication can make a difference here, especially trying to get those students before they are out the door, trying to build into your formal processes that students need to talk to a staff or faculty member before departing can really be helpful and helping these students develop plans to return or hopefully to stay enrolled. So what can institutions do? Let's take a look at some strategies informed by research. With everything that we just saw and through our kind of work with institutions, the surveys that we've done, and the qualitative work we've done, we've kind of identified four major challenges of re-entering higher education as a stopout student. One is simply not understanding what is required to re-enroll at the institution. We also see an often lack of follow-up from the former institution to help the student come back and get re-enrolled. And also this lends itself to the next point, complex re-enrollment processes that can often include paperwork, advisor meetings, and navigating bureaucracy, all of which when we see that these students are often very pressed for time, they might be juggling caregiving, school schedules for their children, working full time, adult caregiving. These students have a lot on their plate, and often a lot of times these re-enrollment processes can be really burdensome and time intensive when these students simply don't have the time to spare, which probably led to their initial stop out to begin with. We also see financial barriers and personal factors like those that we just discussed pose a real challenge to students who want to re-enter higher education who have some college but no credential. And to better put this into context, we have some quotes from real students on how schools can help them re-engage. The first student wrote, "Give me advice on how to complete my degree. Help me enroll back again and provide me with the resources needed to complete my major." Another student wrote in, "Please resolve my account issues. Provide more responsive support in the registrar's office. Simplify the reapplication and financial assistance process." And a few more quotes here. "It would be nice to have a better system to speak to someone, especially my advisor. Reach out to me more through email." And this last student voice highlight, "I need only one or two classes to graduate. Due to finances and SAT probation, I have to pay tuition out of pocket. I have a 10-year-old child. Please assist me with paying for these two classes so I can graduate." And all of this really just lends itself to these four main barriers where students are not understanding the re-enrollment process. They are facing financial barriers and personal factors, including lack of time, but also they're not really understanding what's required to re-enroll. So I really just wanted to highlight these real student voices on answering how their institution could help them come back to college. We do have an upcoming webinar on our Some College No Credential Toolkit, which walks through the concrete steps for supporting these learners. I will drop the registration link for our December 2nd session in the chat. If you click on that, that will take you directly to the registration page to register for our December 2nd webinar on our really great kind of one-stop shop for this, our Some College No Credential Toolkit. But before we wrap up for today and get into some Q&A, I do want to share a few research-informed practices based on our cumulative Some College No Credential survey results. And these just aren't best practices. They're really essential strategies for helping institutions to reverse dropout trends on their campus. And I'm going to break them down into four buckets. So first, it's just really understanding and addressing financial barriers. Institutions can offer targeted financial aid, debt forgiveness, or emergency grants for returning students. Institutions can simplify tuition payment plans and clearly communicate financial options. And then again, with that proactive outreach, proactively reaching out to students with outstanding balances to discuss solutions, including forgiveness campaigns or payment plans. A lot of students seem to not understand how they can kind of get those holds off of their account for any overdue or remaining balances from the last time they were enrolled. We also see time and time again in this survey and others that students would like improved communication and outreach. We see a lot of students reporting in the survey that they don't understand how to return, like those students we just featured. And re-enrollment processes often mirror those for first time or transfer students. Institutions can offer step-by-step guides and personalized support for navigating re-enrollment as a some college no credential student, while ensuring responsive assistance from offices like the registrar and financial aid, those kind of key roadblocks to helping students re-enroll and return to the institution. Schools can make sure that they are following up with stopped out students using multiple avenues, such as email, phones, and text. We know that these students are busy and that they stopped out for a variety of reasons. And so really reconnecting with them is the first step. Institutions can also assign dedicated advisors or re-enrollment specialists to help guide students through that process. And then lastly, on improving communication outreach, schools can regularly up students on available resources and next steps for coming back. It's also really important that institutions recognize and address challenges that students are facing, such as those that we covered here in this presentation today. Institutions should make sure that enrollment is simple and transparent by reducing the paperwork and bureaucracy as much as possible. Institutions can provide academic advising and tutoring for students returning after a break, but also consider allowing course substitutions or awarding credit for prior learning where possible. Institutions can also review and revise academic probation and suspension policies to support a student's reentry into the institution and also connect students to available mental health resources and counseling services. We know from our annual student financial wellness survey, which actually just closed yesterday, that a lot of institutions or a lot of students are not aware of the available resources to them on their campus. We see frequently up to 2 in 5, about 40% of students are often not available, are not aware of a food pantry or closet that is available to them. And we do see slightly lower rates of unawareness around mental health resources and counseling, but there are a lot of great resources that institutions are providing to students that students simply don't know about. We also encourage institutions to consider offer flexible scheduling and online course options to accommodate students' work and family responsibilities. And lastly, on recognizing and addressing challenges, institutions can foster belonging through peer support groups and campus engagement opportunities, particularly focused on students who have some college no credential. And lastly here, we always here at Trellis Strategies want to highlight and value student voices. And institutions can solicit feedback from returning students to continuously improve those re-enrollment practices. You can participate in surveys like the Some College No Credential survey or one-off surveys on your campus to identify, just like what we did today, identify why students are leaving, how you can help them come back onto campus. And then when they're here, you can help share their success stories and testimonials to nudge and encourage others who are some college no credential to return to campus. Schools can also demonstrate institutional commitment to student success through personalized outreach and support to SCNC students. And then lastly, schools can train staff to be empathetic and proactive when assisting returning students to campus. I will briefly pause on this slide And just want to echo that Trellis Strategies, we are really committed to providing sustainable best practices that help you build institutional capacity and understanding. You can follow us on LinkedIn and sign up for our newsletter, Strategies 360, for ongoing insights. And with that, we can turn it over to some Q&A. I just wanted to thank everyone for their time today, and I'd really love to hear your questions and thoughts. It looks like we have a few questions. Since it is a solo show today, I will just run Q&A here. And we had someone ask, did the reasons for leaving change before and after COVID, or do they seem similar across the years? So to answer that, I am going to scroll up here. So we have seen that these top 5 reasons for leaving remain remarkably stable. We do see some variation where sometimes family or personal reasons will be slightly ahead of personal finances, but overall, these are our kind of static top 5. Sometimes we do see a top 6 with academic concerns, but that is often lower than what we're seeing with these other more financial or personal related challenges, where we're not really seeing that students are stopping out because of a lack of academic capability. It's really these external issues and having to prioritize multiple personas, whether that's being a working student, a parenting student, or a student, and that can really force difficult decisions around staying enrolled. So overall, we have not seen a lot of issues of these top 5 reasons for leaving. We've not seen a lot of variation since COVID. I will say during COVID, we did see more health reasons and family and personal reasons play a role, as students reported they were caregiving for a family member who might have long COVID. We also saw a lot of students report that they had deaths in the family that either changed their financial capacity to stay enrolled, or they might have had to take a few semesters off to deal with some of the emotional and kind of mental health related fallback from that death in the family. That's a great question. Right, I'm going to keep scrolling through and seeing what other questions we have. If you have any questions for me about the survey or the upcoming webinar or anything else, please feel free to throw that in the chat while I pull up our next question. Okay, we had someone write in, how does your personal experience shape the way you interpret SCNC data? That's a great question. And I think that I really bring, this personal lens to the data. And I really is important for me that we put this data in context, that we really understand that these numbers aren't just numbers. These represent real students who have perhaps sunken a considerable amount of money and time into getting a college degree, but ultimately never quite make it to the finish line. And I think just highlighting again that over 43 million Americans have some college credits, but no credentials. And they're really, in quite a tough spot, especially if they've had to take on student loan debt. I think what I would really like to see, and what I've learned from my personal experience as being a grad school stopout and seeing my husband be a stopout and then slowly work his way back through an associate's and through a bachelor's degree, is that we really just need to treat these students one-on-one and help them figure out how to come back, how to make a schedule that works with their external obligations. But really just want to highlight that I think something that higher education, we have left these 43 million students behind. And I deeply worry about their ability to recoup their return on investment with the financial and time and everything else that they have spent to get the college credits that they have. I have another question, just a few more. Anyone has anything else to throw into the chat? Someone asks, what surprised you most when leading the SCNC survey since 2017. And this kind of relates back to the first question about did the reasons for leaving change before and after COVID? So what surprised me most is that these top 5 reasons for leaving are pretty much universal across institution, type, region, sector, morality, where we really see, it's a kind of a multi-pronged issue between personal finances, family and personal reasons, employment, affordability, and then health reasons. So really just what surprised me the most since leading the survey for the last 8 years is that these findings are remarkably stable. And I think these indicate the stability of these reasons for leaving really indicates that institutions can develop practices, policies, and procedures to highlight opportunities for return for these students, whether that's directly to your institution or through regional opportunities and collaborations with other institutions in your area. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions coming into the chat. So when I typically moderate webinars for Trellis Strategies, and I always like to leave our attendees, just scroll through here. I always like to leave our attendees with like one key takeaway. And I really hope that for those who attended, thank you again so much for spending some time with us this afternoon. And I think one actionable takeaway that I would hope attendees leave with today is just knowing that we are available to do this type of work with you on your campus. If you haven't participated before or you have participated in one of our surveys and it's been a few years, we're available to help you kind of work through that data. And we're also great technical assistance partners in helping you understand how to translate that data into action on your campus. And I also just really encourage institutions and organizations to think through what it would look like if even 1% of that 43 million or 2% of the 43 million were able to come back uh, and finish their degree and see that return not only on the financial investments that they've made in college, but also see for the first generation students what that might look like for their families going forward. Um, and I think I'm not seeing any other questions come in, so I am going to go ahead and stop sharing. You can use this QR code to sign up for our newsletter, but it looks like we're going to wrap up a little bit early today. Again, if you have any follow-up questions or comments for me, please feel free to reach out. Otherwise, I hope everyone has a great rest of their day, and thank you so much for attending our webinar on understanding the Some College No Credential Learner. Thanks so much.